So you may have heard of them. They're in the bulletin along with the Eightfold Path. And this would be a fundamental part of the Buddhist teachings. And what Buddha discovered from the First Noble Truth is that life is difficult. So the first step is that we're kind of all in this together. Is there anybody here today who has never had any difficulty in their life? Is there anybody who has never suffered? Is there anyone who hasn't lost a parent or a child or a partner or a friend or had something in your life that made you so very sad and unhappy? We all have. And that brings us together and makes us recognize that intimate connection that we all have, that even though we all have suffered and probably will suffer again, that there's a hope that we are intimately connected to each other and there is a way out of the suffering. And that's the first noble truth. So the second noble truth is that most of the time we are searching for happiness in inherently dissatisfying ways. What we do in most cases is that we try to manipulate our external world in order to be happy. So we look at our family or our friends or our house or our job or anything around us, and we try to get it just right. We continue to kind of manipulate and manage people, places, and things and hope that they will just get to that point where sometimes we really do feel a sense of happiness for a few moments or even for a little while. But darn it if those people in our lives don't go off and start changing. And then we got to try to get them back in line again. Because if our happiness is dependent on what is happening externally to us, then there's a whole lot of manipulation you got to be doing in order to be able to get happy most of the time. And so this is what Buddha discovered, that if we look outside of ourselves for happiness, that ultimately we can never be happy. And within this context, another thing that Buddha discovered is one of the things that we're doing while we're trying to manipulate our external environment is we're doing this thing called labeling. So if you think about it, when you get up in the morning until the time you go to bed at night, we label most things in our life. We label people, we label places, we label experiences, and we even label ourselves. We decide that things are either good, and that might bring us pleasure, so we try to get more of those, or things are bad or painful, and we try to push those away. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff in our life that we have decided is completely irrelevant because it doesn't cause us pain, and we can't figure out how it's going to bring us any pleasure, so we ignore it completely. And so from the Buddha's experience, he found that this constant attention of labeling the good, the bad, and the irrelevant is a pretty busy task you have when you get up every day and you're trying to push away those things that you don't want, and you're trying to pull towards you all those things that are going to give you pleasure, and you're trying to ignore all those other people and things and places that are really getting in the way. And that can be pretty exhausting. And so from the Buddha's perspective, recognizing that you will never be able to manipulate your family or your friends or your job or your house or your car and get happy. So the third noble truth is good news. There's a way out of this. There's a way to understand that happiness is innately within us and that there is a path that we can walk on that will enable us to find that in any given moment, regardless of our external circumstances. And so within the bulletin, it shows the Eightfold Path. And the Buddha went through and tried to identify those things that he found that could be done that would cause anyone to experience this innate happiness. And so for the Buddha, it was not about having faith in him or having faith in what he was saying, But the Buddhist teachings are all about, go try it. See if it works for you. It worked for me. I'm giving you a roadmap. It's up to you to walk down that path. And so the Four Noble Truths, the fourth one is the Eightfold Path, and that opportunity to look at ways that you can change the way you think, and you can change your actions, and then you can change the way you live your life in a way that will bring you innate happiness regardless of your external circumstances. And so those are the most important teachings of Buddhism. And I wanted to add just one additional part, and that is at the beginning of most Buddhist teachings, when we're just starting out and we can't quite figure this thing out, we can take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And these are the three components, kind of like training wheels, that if we were all sitting here this morning and completely enlightened and had nothing but happiness in our lives, then we probably wouldn't need to take refuge in anything. But the Buddha recognized that until we get to that point, we need to have something to support us along our path. And so he came up with the three jewels, which are called the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha being not only Buddha, the historical figure that gives us encouragement that this has and can be done, but Buddha also represents our own Christ consciousness, the innate goodness that we have within us. Even if you're sitting here this morning and believing that you are not innately good, at least for a moment, imagine that it's true. That's what the Buddha discovered, is that we are all innately good. No matter how many labels we put on ourselves, no matter how many labels we put on our past experiences, or even the people in our lives, it doesn't change the fact that our innate nature is goodness. And that's why we take refuge in the Buddha, to remind us of that. And then the second gem is the Dharma. And the Dharma has many definitions, but it's a Sanskrit word that means the eternal truth. All the people that came before us and that were so kind enough to write down what they discovered in order to show us the way. So from a Buddhist perspective, there have been many enlightened beings. And we can look at what those enlightened beings did and what they wrote down and what they're telling us in order to be enlightened ourselves. And that's the importance of taking refuge in the Dharma. And the third jewel is the Sangha. And that is a group of enlightened individuals who are trying to support you on your path. Whether you're enlightened or not, you can be part of that Sangha if you can choose that you are going to support yourself and each other to find the spiritual path that is right for you and to grow and transform yourself. So everybody that's here today, you came here this morning for 1,000 different reasons. But I'm sure part of that is that you came to be spiritually fed. And the joy of you coming here this morning to be spiritually fed, that as a byproduct and as an additional result, you are supporting everybody else in this room to be spiritually fed as well. What the Buddha figured out was that if we are going to be able to be enlightened, it helps to have the support and encouragement of like-minded individuals. So we are a Sangha. We are a community of like-minded people that are here to encourage and support each other on our spiritual paths. So thanks for showing up this morning. So those are the three jewels. And I thought that also I might quote our resident guru, Jim Jordan. When he was talking about these triple gems, the three jewels, he said, you know what? It's really not all that exotic. He said, if you look at, example, what happens in Alcoholics Anonymous, they have the three jewels as well. In Alcoholics Anonymous, you have to remember that there's a higher power. You also have to follow the Dharma, the 12-step program. And you also have to participate in meetings, the Sangha of like-minded individuals that are there to support you on your path. So, sorry, Buddhism really isn't all that exotic.